Discover the incredible moment when heartwarming courage is revealed amidst three terrifying noises. In a small Midwestern town, nestled beneath an expansive sky, life could turn on a dime. Just like that night when the tension in the air crackled like static. As Sarah, a humble waitress and single mother, juggled her two jobs, adrenaline surged through her veins. Her heart raced, but not just from the stress of serving breakfast to sleepy-eyed locals at the diner. Tonight, she had an opportunity, a promotion if she could pull off catering for the town's elite at the gala. The stakes were high. But the real issue was Jake. Her spirited teenage son felt haunted by the doubts swirling around him, doubts about fitting in, about being good enough, and mostly about sharing his music in a world that seemed to judge at every turn. As the evening descended, storm clouds brewed on the horizon, dark and foreboding. The winds picked up, a tension building with each gust. Suddenly, the eerie wail of the tornado siren sliced through the town, sending shivers down everyone's spine. The aftermath of that sound was chaos. The sharp crack of downed power lines added a layer of dread as people scrambled for shelter. Glass shattered across the street, a nearby store's window, unable to withstand the force of nature. Fear gripped the townsfolk, and doubt seeped into their hearts. But instead of succumbing to the weight of anxiety, Sarah felt a fierce spirit ignite within her. She rushed into the thickening gloom, rallying her neighbors for shelter, urging them to gather in her home. "We can't let fear win," she yelled, embodying the community resilience that had always defined their town. The chaos outside mirrored the storm in her heart. Yet her fierce, maternal instinct pushed her to usher everyone to safety, refusing to let panic take hold. Amidst the cacophony, Jake felt utterly invisible, lost in a world that seemed too big, too loud. It wasn't until he caught sight of terrified children pressed together in the corner, little faces lit by flickering candlelight, that he realized he had what they needed. He grabbed his guitar, feeling the familiar weight of the instrument grounding him. Taking a deep breath, he began to strum softly, his melodic voice breaking through the chaos like a beacon. "It's okay," he coaxed. "You're safe. You're not alone." Sarah paused, her heart swelling in that moment. She heard her son's soothing song float in from the other room, and it stopped her in her tracks. Tears glimmered in her eyes. Realizing that this was a moment of connection, not just with Jake, but also with her estranged father, a veteran who once faced his own storms. Maybe it's time, she thought, to show him Jake's music. To bridge old wounds with new dreams. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The community stood together like a great tapestry, woven with shared fears, but also vibrant threads of hope and love. As Jake's gentle song filled the space, the townsfolk began to feel a shift. Could vulnerability be the first step toward healing? This night was just the beginning, but with it came flickers of courage, unity, and the realization that even in darkness, they could redefine their futures. But as the storm raged on and uncertainty loomed, Would they find the strength to confront their past and create a brighter tomorrow? The answer hung in the balance, casting shadows of doubt, yet illuminating sparks of possibility. The storm rumbled outside, shaking the very foundations of Sarah's home. With every crack of thunder, the room filled with nervous glances and hushed whispers. Jake's voice cut through that noise, a comforting beacon in the darkness. Even the adults, who held the weight of responsibilities and fears, were calmed by the lyrical notes coming from the young musician. Sarah smiled through her tears, feeling a swell of pride for her son. As the last strum faded, the room was silent, save for the soft patter of rain on the roof. Then, a child spoke up, her voice small yet clear. "Can you play another song?" It was a simple request, yet it pierced through the shroud of anxiety. The other children nodded in agreement, eyes wide with excitement, drawing out their own adventurous imaginations through music. Jake looked at his mother, a question in his eyes. Though doubt often gripped him, that night, before the storm, something had shifted within him. He seized the moment. "Sure, how about a song about bravery?" A soft murmur of approval rippled through the crowd, and Jake launched into a melody he'd written just for moments like this, moments filled with fear but also happy. The townsfolk gathered closer, drawn to his warm presence. The more he played, the more the weight of their worries lifted. Outside, the wind howled fiercely, but inside that modest home, the energy changed. Laughter began to replace anxiety. A grandmother tapped her feet, joining the rhythm. A few teenagers swayed together, their earlier unease washing away in the music. For the first time that night, smiles lit up faces, and walls that once held doubts crumbled. As Jake continued to play, Sarah moved around the room, connecting with her neighbors. She offered cups of hot cocoa, her maternal spirit wrapping everyone in warmth. In that shared vulnerability, they were no longer just a collection of individuals. They were a community bound by shared experiences, battling the same storm. But suddenly, the power flickered, plunging them into near darkness. Gasps filled the room, and panic surged once again. Sarah's heart raced as memories of past storms flooded her mind. She reached for Jake's hand, squeezing it tightly. "Keep playing. Don't stop. We are with you." His fingers found the strings again, and the notes poured out. A fierce declaration against the uncertainties lurking in the dark. The candlelight flickered, reflecting the warmth of hope in their hearts. It was a moment of resilience, a promise that no storm, no matter how fierce, could take away their spirit. But as Jake's performance filled the room, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just music. It was a lifeline, a way to reclaim their strength and nurture connections long thought broken. With every word he sang, he felt a knot unraveling inside him, releasing his fears and doubts. Amidst this temporary sanctuary created by music and love, Sarah's mind raced back to her father. Would he ever feel the power of Jake's music? Did he know about the struggles they faced? And could he be part of this transforming moment too? As Jake strummed his last chorus, she knew one thing: change was essential. Not just in her life, but in the lives of those she loved. By the time she looked around, everyone was enchanted. But the question loomed deeper than the storm outside. How could they move beyond this night? Beyond the fear, to truly heal and grow together. With a lingering note hanging in the air, a silent pact formed amongst them. Would they refuse to remain victims of the past, or would they rise stronger, hand in hand, embracing whatever came their way. The tension danced in the air, echoing with unanswered promises as the storm outside roared louder. And then she heard the first sound of silence. What came next? The sudden silence enveloped the room like a thick fog, replacing the screams of thunder with an almost eerie calm. Jake's fingers hovered over the strings, uncertainty creeping back, but Sarah felt a surge of determination. The power was out, and they were left in the dim flicker of candlelight. Yet there was more than electricity flowing between them. It was Hopi. Jake, Sarah whispered, her voice steady, reclaiming the space with every ounce of warmth. Play what you feel. Let them hear your heart. He took a deep breath, his confidence flickering like the candles, then pressed down hard on the strings. The first notes came hesitantly, but as he played, they grew stronger. Fueled by the smiles and encouragement from those around him, the melody transformed into a tapestry of emotions: fear, longing, resilience. Familiar faces lit up with enthusiasm, the warmth of their spirit igniting a fire within him. The children giggled and clapped along, their voices rising above the rhythm, blending into an orchestra of laughter. A few older folks started humming softly, their eyes shimmering with unshed tears, reminding everyone of shared stories and long-fought battles. In that moment the storm felt distant and irrelevant. They had formed their own crescendo under that roof, a defiant act of courage. Outside, the storm rattled on. But it was nothing compared to the storm they were weathering inside. Each note strummed a testament to their collective strength. And as Jake transitioned into a song about dreams, the lyrics hung in the air, hopeful and tender. Sarah felt the love in each note. A promise that things could be different if only they opened their hearts wide enough to let the light in. Then, amidst this comforting chaos, a massive crash resounded outside. The windows rattled violently, and a collective gasp swept through the room. Sarah froze, fear clutching at her throat. Then instinct kicked in. Stay close. We can't let fear win. She shouted, her tone seeping courage into the shaken breaths around her. Jake looked to her, the determination in her eyes reminding him of the strength they all shared. He picked up the pace of the song, pouring everything he had into it, wrapping their collective fear in beautiful melodies. The room grew warmer, as if the spirit of resilience was tangible, already beginning to mend their wounds. But another crash echoed through the storm, this time accompanied by the shattering of a window. Cold rain poured in, a reflection of both fear and reality. A young girl shrieked, and panic threatened to rip through the fabric of their newfound sanctuary. Just when it seemed like darkness might reclaim its grip, the old grandmother stepped forward, clutching her quilt as if it were a trophy. We've fought storms before, haven't we? Tell them, Jake. Tell them how brave we can be. She raised her voice, rallying the group. In that moment, Jake shifted from a mere performer to a conductor of hope. He made eye contact with each individual present, his music weaving a spell. This is our home. Together, we can face anything. With renewed strength, he poured every ounce of his heart into the music, a louder invocation for bravery. They all sang now, a chorus echoing against the walls, merging their strength into something unstoppable. As tears mingled with laughter, something shifted in the atmosphere. It was no longer just a stormy night. It was a vow, a pact to embrace whatever came next. They were no longer victims of fear. They were victors of courage. But just as they found their footing, another thunderclap rolled overhead, louder than before. All eyes turned to the door, where a silhouette stood amidst the flickering light. "Who's there?" Sarah called, her voice tremulous but strong, unsure if she was ready for whatever lay beyond the threshold. That dark figure stood at the edge of their sanctuary, but as a bolt of lightning illuminated the room, it revealed a familiar face. What would it mean to embrace this person, to share this moment with someone they thought was lost? As the lightning cast a stark glow, the familiar face broke through the shadows. It was Lisa, Jake's little sister, her cheeks wet with rain but eyes bright with defiance. Their last memory together had been a tearful goodbye as she left for college weeks ago, far from the storm that now enveloped them. "Jake!" she shouted, her voice barely carried over the raging winds outside. "I came back." The room erupted in a mix of gasps and cheers. Jake's heart soared at the sight of her, but conflicting emotions rushed in. He hadn't expected to see her, especially not under such dire circumstances. "Lisa, what are you doing here?" he called, rushing towards her. "I saw the storm. I had to come home. I couldn't stay away." Her words were full of urgency, echoing the very spirit of their makeshift gathering. As she stepped in, more rain lashed against the windows, but inside, warmth spread through the crowd. Jake swept her into a tight embrace, feeling the weight of fear lift slightly as he held her close. The storm was still howling, but now they stood united sibling strength, bonded against the turmoil outside. "Can you play?" Lisa asked, stepping back to look him in the eye. "We're all here." "They need you, Jake." His pulse quickened, the spark igniting all over again. The thought of sharing this moment with her, to help everyone here face the storm together, propelled him forward. "Yeah, I will." With renewed vigor, he caught Sarah's eye, nodding to her as if to say they would keep this momentum alive. She flashed him a brilliant smile, an anchor in the chaos. The room held its breath, and he began to strum again, slowly layering in the chords of another song. Lisa joined by his side, the duo bridging the gap between anxiety and hope. The melody flowed seamlessly as laughter and song replaced the ominous rumbles outside. They sang together, voices intertwining and echoing off the walls, lifting spirits. As he looked around the room, Jake saw every face captivated, young and old eyes shining with hope. Tears streamed down some cheeks but were mingled with smiles. Lisa watched, swaying softly, her presence a healing balm. This was home, and no storm could rob them of that. But suddenly, a loud crack split the air, sharper than thunder. They all froze, heartbeats sinking to the dread that threatened to envelop them once again. It wasn't just thunder. It was the unmistakable sound of a tree snapping. The fear of something sinister crept back into the room, but they quickly rallied. "Keep singing. Don't let it break us." Sarah encouraged, amplifying the fight in their hearts. Each note they played pushed back against the shadows of doubt. The rhythm surged, hearts joined together in defiance. They were not backing down. They would transform this fear into something magnificent. With each strum and every verse, the world outside faded, revealing only the sanctuary they had built together. Yet, even as they sang, lurking dread loomed from the now very real danger outside. Everyone strained to hear the next sound. The echo of splintering would reverberated through the storm's wrath, followed by a deeper, more chilling sound that sent a shiver down their spines. "What was that?" A worried voice croaked from the back of the room. Jake glanced nervously at Lisa. "Whatever it is." We need to be ready. He felt the music pulsing in his veins, but uncertainty crept back in. Would their courage continue to hold against whatever awaited outside? As the next crash followed, the door shuddered ominously, and the candlelight flickered, signaling the unknown was about to break in. Would they face this storm together, elevating their courage to meet every threat, or would they falter? What lay on the other side of that door could change everything. The door rattled violently, the sound drowning out the music that had briefly held them together. Jake's heart raced, each beat echoing the desperate energy running through the room. He glanced back at everyone gathered there, their faces etched with anxiety, a silent plea for assurance in their eyes. "Stay close," he yelled over the relentless storm, pulling Lisa nearer to him. Her small frame offered comfort, a reminder of their childhood days when they faced every challenge side by side, united. The next crash was deafening, a thud that resonated like a war drum, repeating the call to courage. Jake took a deep breath, willing himself to remember that they were not alone. Every person in the room was part of his family, fighting against the chaos together. "Jake, do you think it's—" Sarah's voice trailed off, a flicker of fear breaking through her bravery. "Whatever it is, we can handle it. We have to stand strong," Jake replied. He felt Lisa's small hand slide into his, grounding him. They turned to face the door again, every eye focused on it as they held their breath. The wind howled, trying to invade their sanctuary, but inside, the scent of candle wax and damp wood created a sense of home. It was a sanctuary, but for how long? Suddenly, the door creaked, slowly inching open as if it had a will of its own. The gust of wind seemed to pause, suspended in time. A shadow loomed beyond the threshold. Jake closed the door. Someone shouted, their panic rising like the storm outside. "No, wait," Jake called, taking a hesitant step forward. He squinted through the darkness, a mix of uncertainty and curiosity filling his senses. The dim light flickered, revealing a figure, a young man, soaked from the rain, his face smeared with mud and eyes wide with fear. "Please, I need help," he gasped, stumbling inside, nearly collapsing at their feet. The breathless urgency in his voice sent a ripple of reactions through the room. "What happened out there?" Jake asked, instinctively stepping back to aid him. "A tree fell. I was with my friends, and—" "They didn't make it," the young man stammered, tears mingling with the rainwater on his cheeks. "I thought I'd die. I ran. I didn't want to leave them." Gasps flew around the room, like electric shocks igniting their fear again. The sense of unity that had sprung up moments before felt fragile, like a fragile glass ornament on the edge of breaking. Jake tightened his grip on Lisa's hand, feeling her anxiety, the shock of reality hitting them hard. Everyone had their own fears, but now it was time to face a new kind of terror. "We're here for you," he said, trying to channel strength. "What can we do?" "Help." "They're trapped," he breathed, struggling to compose himself. "They're stuck under a tree." Jake's heart sank. The storm was worse than he'd thought. Their little bubble of safety was threatened. As their eyes locked, Jake realized the weight of this moment. If they made the decision to leave their sanctuary, it could mean stepping into the unknown and risking everything. "Everyone, listen," he said, turning to the group. "We have to make a choice. We can stay safe here, or we can go out there and help them. But if we do, we need to stick together." The room buzzed with tension, every heartbeat echoing the dilemma they faced. Would they step into the storm to save those caught in its fury? A weighed silence followed, the sound of howling wind filling the void. What choice would they make, and how would it change the course of the night? "Jake, we have to help." Lisa's voice cut through the murmur, her resolve unwavering. But was it the right decision? In that moment everything was on the line, drawing them into uncertainty. Would they face the storm bravely, or retreat back into the warmth of their fragile safety? The choice loomed ahead, and the storm waited, racing forward with a vengeance. Jake's eyes scanned the faces around him, each expression reflecting a different mix of fear and determination. "We have to help," he repeated, his voice steady but soft, as if trying to coax them into action. Lisa's grip on his hand tightened, a silent agreement. She believed they could do this. "Jake, I just don't know," Sarah admitted, her voice shaky. Doubts flickered in her eyes. "What if we don't make it back?" "Then at least we tried," he replied, his heart pounding in rhythm with the roaring wind. "They need us." He was surprised by the surge of conviction in his own voice. "All right." A deep voice resonated through the anxious crowd. It was Mike, usually the quiet one, now stepping under the flickering light. "If we're going, we've got to do it fast and smart. Grab some flashlights and ropes. We can't waste time." The room quickly pulsed with energy. People raced to gather supplies, their previous fear momentarily shelved for a stronger purpose. Jake could feel the shift in the air, the unity forming around this shared mission. Moments later, several flashlights flicked to life, casting beams of hope against the walls. As they prepared to head out, Jake felt Lisa's small form by his side once more. "Promise me we'll come back, okay?" she whispered, her big eyes shimmering with unease. "I promise," he assured her, holding her gaze. The warmth of her trust fueled his resolve. They lined up at the door, hearts hammering in unison. "On 3, Jake announced, raising his hand. 1, 2, 3. With a collective inhale, they surged into the night, the door slamming shut behind them as the storm swallowed their sanctuary whole. The air was a cacophony of wind, rain, and thunder, nature's raw fury reminding them of how fragile they truly were. Visibility was limited. The harsh rain made everything blurry. They stepped cautiously into the chaos, adrenaline kicking in as they faced the elements. Heads turned toward the sounds of groaning wood, and every crack of lightning felt like a warning ringing out. "It's just ahead, through those trees," the rescued boy shouted, pointing into the deluge. Jake nodded, clenching the flashlight like a lifeline. They pushed forward, sloshing through puddles, fighting against the wind that pressed against their chests like a weight. As they neared the fallen tree, a desperate moan rose above the storm's roar, a sound that twisted Jake's stomach into knots. "We're almost there," he barked, feeling Lisa's breath quicken beside him. "Stay close," Mike called, directing the group. They formed a chain, boots sinking into the muddy ground, helping one another navigate the treacherous terrain. Then suddenly Alaukranjay, "Look out!" shouted. A branch from a nearby tree splintered and crashed to the ground just a few feet away, sending everyone reeling backward. "Keep moving," Sarah urged, breathless, her fear blocking any thoughts of retreat. Finally, they reached the fallen tree, its massive form sprawled across the ground. Jake's heart dropped at the sight of two shadows trapped beneath the massive trunk bodies lying still, the struggle to breathe visible amidst the relentless rain. Help! Jake shouted, urgency flooding his veins. We need to get them out. As they worked, tears mixed with the rain on their faces. Each person's heart thrummed in a blend of fear and determination. They could almost hear the anguish of the trapped souls. Their time was running out. Is anyone here? Can you hear us? Jake yelled, hoping against hope that he would get a response. A faint voice, weak but alive, floated back. Help, please. In that moment, the storm was no longer just weather. It was a test of will, a fight against nature and fear. Would they succeed in their perilous rescue? Or was the storm more than they could handle? Jake dropped to his knees, the mud seeping into his jeans as he crouched beside the fallen tree. Can you tell us where you're hurt? He shouted, his heart racing as a flash of lightning illuminated the scene, revealing more details in the chaos. He could just make out the two figures beneath the trunk, their faces pale and fear plastered across their features. Legs pinned, a voice gasped out, strained and labored. Jake felt a surge of panic. Time was slipping through their fingers like grains of sand. Stay with us, he urged, trying to keep his tone steady. We're getting you out. Just hold on. He glanced back at the group, their faces illuminated by the flickering flashlights. Their brows were furrowed, determination hardening their features. Sarah, help me lift from this side, he said, pointing to a solid spot where he felt they could gain leverage. Mike and Lisa positioned themselves on the other side, muscles tensed, ready to push against the weight of the tree that pinned their unknown saviors. On 3, Mike echoed, the gravity of the moment weighing on them all. 1, 2, 3. They heaved together, grunting under the strain. The tree shifted, just a few inches, but it felt monumental. Again. Jake shouted, fear mingling with hope as they braced themselves. On the count of 3, they lifted again, working in furious sync. Easy, easy, came the voice from underneath, edged with panic, which only intensified Jake's resolve. Every second felt like an eternity. As they pushed and heaved, the rain beat down around them relentlessly, adding to the chaos. Each time they grunted, the tree scooted a fraction. It wasn't much, but it felt like progress. However, the storm raged on, the gales intensifying, forcing them to holler for one another over the roar. Keep your heads in the game, Sarah shouted, her voice strained. She was drenched, mascara streaking her cheeks, but her eyes burned fiercely. We can't stop now. Just as they readied for another push, a thunderous crack rumbled above them, shaking ground. Look out! Lisa screamed as a larger branch snapped, sending smaller debris tumbling down. The moat played a motion out of the way. Jake yelled, instinctually pulling Lisa down behind him. They hit the mud, praying the storm wouldn't claim them too. The echoes of the crashing wood collided with the sound of their hearts, thudding in their chests like drumming thunder. After a few tense moments, they slowly rose, brushing muddy grime off their coats. Are you okay? Jake asked Lisa, concern thick in his voice. She nodded, but her wide eyes betrayed her anxiety. Focused again, Jake returned to the task at hand. Let's try again. We've got to move it more. They rearranged themselves, hands grasping straps and cuffs, determination alive in their gazes. Ready? Mike asked, breathing heavy but filled with tenacity. 1, 2, 3. With a collective effort, They pushed with every ounce of strength they had left. As the tree groaned, Jake thought he saw movement from beneath the trunk. A hand reaching out. Just a bit more. We see you. Jake called, sweat mingling with rain as he moved beyond worry. Then, with a final surge, the tree rolled away and gasps echoed through their group. Two figures were revealed, dazed but alive, relief washing over everyone in an overwhelming rush. Thank you. Thank you. One of the victims whispered, tears mingling with the rain as they blinked against the drenched world. Jake collapsed, breathless but filled with a triumph that erased fear. They had done it, together, but just then, in the distance, he heard a new sound, soft but urgent. It pierced through the chaos the wail of a siren. What's that? Lisa asked, her brows furrowing in confusion. A new reality began to dawn, the storm still raging. But the fight was far from over. What awaited them next? Would the siren bring more trouble or hope? As the siren's wail grew closer, a mix of relief and trepidation washed over the group. Jake's heart hammered in his chest, each beat echoing the dual fear and gratitude that hung in the air. He glanced at the two victims lying on the ground, their gratitude palpable even amid their pain. The rain poured down, almost as if the heavens were weeping for their ordeal, and yet, some part of Jake felt buoyed by the act they had just accomplished. Are you both okay? Jake asked, kneeling beside them. What are your names? I'm Evan, the man replied, his voice hoarse. He grimaced as he tried to shift, the pain evident in his eyes. And this is Lily. We were hiking when the storm hit. The tree just came down. Stay still, Sarah urged, crouching beside them, her hands already assessing their injuries. We'll get help. Hold on. Lisa scanned the surroundings, her heart racing. Where's the nearest road? We need to flag down the paramedics. Jake turned, squinting against the rain as he tried to glimpse through the murky darkness, searching for the flicker of headlights. He could hear the sirens now, distant but growing louder. That should mean help was coming soon. Okay, everyone, we need to gather together, Jake shouted over the howling wind. Let's form a barrier with our bodies to keep them warm while we wait. They moved quickly, forming a circle around Evan and Lily, huddling together for warmth. Jake could feel the weight of fear mixing with hope, and he knew they couldn't let this moment run away from them. He could sense how fragile life was, how quickly everything could change. Please, just hold on, help is coming, Jake said, trying to sound confident as he felt the shivering of the group. He looked at Evan and Lily, gauging their strength, their fear. You both did so well. Just keep breathing. I'm not going to make it, voiced Lily's tremulous. The dark, stormy night felt heavy, and her face paled under the cold rain. Don't say that, Evan shouted, panic flashing through his eyes. We'll make it together. Remember what we talked about, Lily. You've always said that you're a fighter. Yeah, she blinked through the rain like a lighthouse trying to cut through the fog. Jake's heart squeezed. They were all hanging on the edge of hope, clinging to the idea that dawn would break. As the sirens echoed closer, an unexpected crack of thunder split the sky like a dam bursting. It was almost as if nature itself was with them in a tumultuous dance, and the rain intensified, drenching them further still and making every second stretch out painfully. I can't feel my legs. Lily choked out, tears mingling with the raindrops on her cheeks. Focus on my voice, Jake said, squeezing her hand gently. "You're stronger than this storm. Just think of the sun coming out again." His words hung in the cold air, filled with a fragile hope. Suddenly, shadows loomed through the rain. Flashing lights pierced the darkness, cutting through their fear like a knife. The rescue team had arrived. Relief washed over Jake, but underneath it, a fresh wave of worry bubbled. Would they be able to lift Lily and Evan to safety? Would they still have to face the storm ahead? He pushed those thoughts aside and waved his arms, trying to get the attention of the rescuers over the sound of the storm. "Over here. We need help." He shouted, his voice a desperate plea, as he pointed at the injured pair. As figures rushed toward them, shadows shifting against the rain, Jake felt a rush of adrenaline. This might not be over yet. What would happen next? Would help be enough, or were they all about to face something even more frightening? The rescue team swarmed around them, urgency evident in their movements. Flashlights flickered in the rain, illuminating faces filled with determination. Jake stepped back to let them through, his heart racing with both fear and hope. It felt surreal to watch the professionals take charge, their presence an anchor in the chaos that had engulfed them. "Clear some space," one of the medics shouted, and Jake instinctively moved aside, guiding Lisa and Sarah to do the same. They huddled together, anxiety etching lines on their faces as they watched the medical team assess Evan and Lily. "Can you hear me?" Another medic asked, gently shaking Lily's shoulder. "We're going to take care of you. Just hang in there, all right?" Lily's eyes fluttered open, a faint nod barely lifting her chin. Jake admired her silent strength. Even in her vulnerability, she fought to hold on. Evan struggled through clenched teeth. "Please, don't leave her." The panic in his voice pulled at Jake's chest. "Never!" One medic replied fiercely as he expertly bandaged Evan's leg. "We're here for both of you. You're not alone." As the medic worked, the sound of distant thunder rumbled, low and menacing, reminding them that the elements were still reminding them of their power. Raindrops continued to lash angrily, but the sirens seemed to blanket their worries just a little, a calming soundtrack amidst the chaos. "Turn this way." Came another shout as the medics prepared to lift Lily carefully onto a stretcher. Jake held his breath, every fiber of his being hoping the move wouldn't worsen her injuries. The moment they lifted Lily, a sharp cry escaped her lips. Evan's eyes were wide, as if he could feel every ounce of her pain. "Lily!" he cried out, but the medics quickly soothed him, their voices steady and nurturing. "Focus on your breathing, Evan. We're getting her to safety," one medic reassured. As they secured Lily and wheeled her away, a new wave of urgency gripped Jake. "Hey, what do we do with Evan?" He called out, seeking guidance in the whirlwind of movement around them. "Stay with him," Sarah shouted back. "Help him however you can." Jake returned to Evan's side. The cold rain bit at him, but the heat of fear ignited a fire in his spirit. "You're going to be all right," he said, his voice steadier than he felt. "You're strong. You survived the fall and you'll make it through this, too." "Yes," Evan whispered through gritted teeth, tears mixing with the rain. "I just don't want to lose her." In that moment, Jake felt the weight of the world pressing down on them, but he refused to break. He took hold of Evan's trembling hands. "You won't. As long as we're breathing, it's not over." The medics returned, bustling around as they prepped a second stretcher. Just as they lifted Evan off the ground, another crack of thunder roared overhead. Jake felt a chill run down his spine, the storm refusing to relent. As they approached the road, headlights from an ambulance sliced through the darkness. The warm glow offered a sliver of certainty in a night filled with chaos. Yet beneath that glow, a new uncertainty sparked. Would the ambulance provide the safety they all desperately needed? Jake's stomach twisted, grappling with the suffocating notion that safety was still uncertain. They were not yet out of the woods, not yet free from the storm, and the fear of what lay ahead coiled tighter within him. As they loaded Evan into the ambulance, he glanced back at the vanishing silhouette of Lily. What awaited her? Would she pull through? The moment of truth was gouged into the night, a harsh reminder that their journey was far from over. Just as the doors of the ambulance slammed shut, sealing them inside, Jake caught a glimpse of the darkening sky. The storm still raged above them. Would the light of dawn ever pierce through this tumult? Or was darkness about to swallow them whole? The rain hammered down, relentless and unyielding. But inside the ambulance, a fragile bond had begun to form amidst the chaos. Jake sat quietly, his heart pounding in sync with the rhythmic beeping of the medical equipment. A lifeline echoing hope against the ominous past. Evan lay on the stretcher beside him, eyes fluttering open and closed, battling fatigue and pain. Stay awake, man. You've made it this far, Jake encouraged, unable to hide the tremor in his voice. His heart ached for Lily, the sight of her being loaded into a separate ambulance still vivid in his mind. Pain etched across Evan's face as he grimaced. I just can't lose her. You won't, Jake insisted, lean and fierce in his conviction. We're all in this together. We got out there, didn't we? We faced that storm head-on. The paramedics moved with purpose, their hands steady and practiced. But Jake felt like a quivering mess, fear curling in his stomach. What would happen next? The world outside felt more chaotic than ever, the storm still raging well beyond their metallic sanctuary. As the ambulance jolted down the road, the thunder rumbled above, still echoing the terror of the night. But in that moment, the interior sparkled with a different kind of energy, a resilience that transcended the storm. How did you guys even find us? Evan asked between labored breaths, trying to focus but clearly struggling. Jake's music brought us together, Lisa replied, her voice filled with the kind of warmth that comforted like a hug. She'd climbed into the ambulance with them, a beacon of hope amidst uncertainty. When we discovered we could face fears through music, it changed everything. Your song, Evan murmured weakly. That was bravery in the face of the storm. Exactly. We're all stronger together, Jake replied, feeling the urge to explain, to share their journey that had led them to this moment. And suddenly, in the midst of all the darkness, a spark ignited. The sirens faded behind them, exchanged for the soft glow of headlights piercing the rain as their ambulance slowly approached the hospital. They had made it. As they pulled up, a group of doctors and nurses awaited them, their faces ready with determination. The doors swung open, rain cascading off the sides like a torrent of feelings, fear, hope, and an unbroken chain of support that had united them. Let's get you two inside. A nurse called out, urgency ringing in her voice, slicing through the weight of the storm. Jake felt a gentle squeeze on his shoulder from Lisa. You did good, Jake. You helped save them. He turned to her, feeling the truth of her words settle like a warm blanket around his heart. Yeah, but it was all of us, the community. The music everything came together tonight. The medics began transferring Evan onto a stretcher, and for a brief moment, dread clouded Jake's thoughts as Evan's eyes flickered closed. "Stay with us, buddy," he urged, gripping Evan's hands, feeling the warmth of that connection pulse with urgency. "You've got a good reason to fight, remember." "Lily," Evan mumbled, voice thin, eyes fluttering between the realm of consciousness and oblivion. "She's going to be all right too," Jake assured, adding a firmer grip to his hold. "Just focus on us. Focus on breathing, on everything we did." As they rushed Evan inside, the hurried voices of doctors washed over them. But just before the doors closed behind him, Jake turned back, peering into the rain-soaked night, where the storm finally seemed to be easing. For the first time, he could feel dawn peeking through, the distant glow of the coming sunrise promising a brighter day ahead. In that sliver of hope, he recalled Jake's song The Notes. Woven with courage, became a shield, wrapping around his heart. With knowledge that tomorrow would inevitably arrive, he straightened his back, ready to face what lay ahead. No longer were they just individuals battling fears. They were a family, a community armed with the power of music and love. Once inside, the chaos faded into a more structured rhythm, hope ricocheting against the sterile walls of the hospital. The medics rushed around him as he bit his lip, forcing a shaky breath to remain steady. They had made it through the storm, and now the light of dawn promised change, healing, and acceptance of the past. Feeling a surge of support, Jake turned to Lisa, her eyes filled with compassion. "We can face anything now, can't we?" Together, she nodded, echoing their silent pact, their familial bond renewed. And as the moments stretched, in that raw, vulnerable space, Jake knew their lives would never be the same. No longer would fears trap them. They would rise above, just like the sun breaking through the stormy night. A surge of clarity washed over him, and with the sun rising on the horizon, he felt the warm glow of hope. This was where the healing began, and all together they would redefine the future. With every ounce of courage left inside, he whispered to the universe, "We got this." And despite the challenges ahead, he believed it with all his heart. Before you go, listen closely. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us grow this community of brave hearts united. Comment below your feelings about this incredible ending and what you've taken away from this transformation. And don't wait, not even one more second, to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformation. Together, we can spread hope and strength. Don't wait. Spread the word.